immediately. Residents should seek shelter immediately. Residents should seek shelter immediately. Residents should seek shelter immediately if any is available. Meteor strike has occurred. A meteor strike has occurred.
Hello people, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines Modular Builds. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And I can't help but feel that the modular build map looks a little bit better with a few enormous holes and burning. It's finally time to go ahead and start a new map. This one has completely lost control, and I thought it would be fun just to kind of blow it up a little bit. What I will do is I'll leave a link to the Steam Workshop for the download for this map. I know a few people wanted to kind of come and fly around in it and see some of my testing and the actual modular builds once they're complete. So there will be a link to the Steam Workshop to this map down in the description below, if you want to come and check it out and look at how awful it looks. But I do feel this is something of an improvement. Anyway, let's go ahead and start a new modular build map, shall we? There is something just like so therapeutic about starting a new city on this game, isn't there? Just having this like fresh template to work with. Anyway, I've just set up like a really small basic city entrance with some services, and it's like a small little town just so there is some kind of population in here to come and enjoy the modular builds that we're going to be working on. The map is Vanilla Coast. It is a workshop map, however it is like super flat, which is ideal for my modular builds. And we can kind of terraform if we're going to be doing any terraforming for the modular builds. We've just got this kind of blank canvas to work with. It's a really nice map. If you want to download it, I will leave a link to the Steam Workshop below. So go ahead and download it. Anyway, today's modular build, we're going to be working on a Olympic Park kind of inspired build. Going to be factoring in obviously lots of big stadiums, kind of sports themes, cycling paths, public transport, and a little bit of water as well. I'm going to have a canal flow through this thing. And it should look really nice once we've got some people moving around it. Let's go ahead and start that, shall we? Okay guys, so for this particular build, I am going to be integrating a canal into this as kind of a centerpiece focus. If you're not near water, or you simply don't like canals, then just leave this bit out and replace it with like a road with a repeated path pattern either side of it. You know, just kind of something to kind of focus the eye and all the assets around. But I would suggest the canals because they do work quite nicely. Anyway, I'm going to use the shallow. Kind of this bit here is the medium, and as we move into the land we go on to shallow, which gives us a nice little water level for the canal. And then let's have all our snapping on so we can measure how we're coming out by. We're going to come out by a total of 40 tiles, which is a cost of 400. And then we'll see our water level. Freak out a little bit as always, but just wait for it to stabilize and you'll soon have an initial starting point. Kind of a cool little wave here actually. Very nice. Okay. So, I'm going to use the 2-lane with bicycle lanes because I'm going to have a lot of cycling infrastructure in this place as well. So, up to you if you want to include it. If not, any old regular road will do. Try go with something a little bit fancy. Just to kind of, you know, focus everything around the canal. So we can snap onto the road guy line of the canal. And if we do this, we can see we have one tile left between the canal and the road. We actually want to have 2 tiles left between, so move one more point along the canal road guideline snap. And then we're going to draw these up level with the canal. So what we're looking for is 2 tiles between the road and the canal. And then we'll do the same thing on this side as well. Let's bring it up to the top. We can also push them back here. And then we want to do the same thing at the head. So we have those 2 tiles of space in between all the way around. Okay. Wonderful. So, come back into our roads. And now what we want to do is link them all together. Just by simply drawing them across, the bridge will auto-generate. And it kind of integrates in with the wall of the canal. It's pretty sweet. It looks nice. And then we're going to draw across every 20 tiles. So this would be 10. We don't want to draw there. I want to come across to this next one. So we're just kind of following these blue circles, right? And then we can come across here as well, at the edge of the canal. And then we can actually draw this canal a little bit further out actually, just so we have come out by another 10 tiles. So the length of the canal in total is 50 tiles. Okay. I'm looking for 3 bridge crossings. I have 10, 20, 40. And then we can draw these up just a touch further. And then we can box that off at the top and then delete these 2 support roads. Wonderful. So again, the water will go a little bit crazy, but give it time and it will stabilize. Now with the decoration around kind of this centerpiece canal, pathways are obviously going to be our first choice. Whichever pathway you have, you can use the regular pavement ones if you want to. They do have quite a nice, clean, modern look to them. They go well with the canal. Of course, always the elevated zoo paths are a firm favourite, especially with the green over the water. But notice have a play with a couple of different styles, different designs, and see which ones. The amusement park actually works quite nicely as well, especially in its bridge form. And then as you come back to Earth, you can maybe just switch to a regular park path so you don't have that red brick, but the red handrails are a nice touch. And I think I'll run with the amusement park path, but either way, just find a style and a path that, you know, you're a fan of. So now, in each of these corners next to the bridge, we're going to draw across the bridges. So just like this. Again, you don't need to do any of your own elevation. The game will do it itself. Very handy. Okay. Then, like I said, to link these paths together, I'm going to go with a park path with decorations. And I'm going to hook them in from point to point. And this will give me a nice little bit of tree decoration alongside the road as well. Which again, once we kind of see this repeated pattern beginning to appear, we'll just start to see the vibe that we're going for. Bring up into the corners. And there you go. So even if you're not featuring this as part of like an Olympic park / sports area modular build, this is a really nice way to decorate your canals, you know, flanking them with paths, bridges over the top, you know, changing the path as it turns into a bridge. And of course, once you've got people cycling around here as well, it's just going to look super busy. You know, just a little bit lush. This is some spice beginning to develop here. So yeah, from the bird's eye view. Obviously, everyone's map is different. You might have more room or less room than this. You can maybe take a chunk out. You can add another chunk on. Just, you know, use it to fit your city. So for right now, this is what we're going to be looking at. Okay, so now taking a look at the roads that are going to lie on the kind of outer edges of our little centerpiece canal here. I'm going to use the 4-lane road with bicycle lanes. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. Any other road will do, but I'm factoring in cycling infrastructure, so it's important for me. We want to be leaving a distance of 5 tiles between the road and the canal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can just measure this up by lining up with the road guideline right up against the edge of the tiles. 1 more over. And then again, you'll have those 5 tiles in between. Wonderful. And then similarly, again, over here too. And then we're just going to link in each of these bridge connections with my cycle lanes. Bring them up here. And then into here as well. And take them through. We can now start to see this little kind of box developing all around the canal. You know, once you've got people cycling and walking everywhere around here, it will look really nice. Wonderful. I'm just appreciating how nice it is to have a clean map. That old one was pretty horrendous. Okay, let's talk about the centerpiece asset. So if you're playing with campus, you have a lot more sports kind of stadiums available to you. The biggest being the American football stadium. However, for an Olympic park type build, I think this is a little bit too big. If you want to use it, by all means do. It centralizes perfectly with your canal. But it's not for me. I'm going to use the regular football stadium. course, if you do have the Matchday DLC, then you can, you know, pick one of the real life stadiums. I don't have it installed. Yeah. Find one of the sports arena assets, most of them centralized, bang on with the canal, which is obviously always appreciated. So yeah, just take your pick. Pick which one you like. Okay, and then with my bicycle path here, I'm going to come from the middle tile. I'm going to have an elevated cycleway kind of run parallel with the park. Going back by a distance of 11 tiles. I'm going to elevate up by a distance of 3. And then I'm going to keep this running straight through the middle. Of course, as this is an empty city, you can link this cycle network into another part of your map and factor it into all those little roads you've already got in, or you can use this as an opportunity to start a brand new cycle network in your city. And it looks like we do get a little bit of streetlight poking through, but we can live with that. Just call it modern art, right? And then I'm just going to repeat this again on the opposite side. So we'll now start to see some little layers of height beginning to develop, which is, again, always appreciated. Really is. So in terms of the district here, we're going to want to paint out a large district. This is just using the regular district tool. You want to give it an organic and local produce specialization from the green cities. If you do not have the patience for this, or you simply don't have green cities, then just simply begin to decorate these sides of the road, whichever fashion you want. You can do trees, you can do pathways underneath. Whatever you want really is the perfect opportunity to get in. But to help the aesthetic of the build, I'm going to go for car parks, which of course can be achieved in a variety of ways, but the specific car park asset I want is the 2x2 Green Cities commercial one. And it's a painstaking process. It really is. So you want to keep doing this. I'll explain it again because I know I always get people asking about it. Come in. Just keep this pattern going. And then we'll wait for some of these assets to come in. Yeah, the asset we're looking for is the Edison Hypercharger. We'll see if we can get one to come in naturally. And you can see how many different assets are in this 2x4 pool. The best thing to do is to zone these out and then go about with the rest of the build. There we go. This is the one that we want to look. This is the one that we want to have. Edison Hypercharger. And then, once these two are filled in, you can then do the next one. If you're playing on PC, just use Find It. You can even get some workshop assets if you don't want to go with the Green Cities ones. If you are using Find It and plot the growables, search for Eco under growable, and then it's this asset here. Eco Commercial 2x201. So I'll go ahead and throw all these assets down and we'll kind of see the effect that it has on the build, and then you can decide whether or not you can be bothered to actually do it. So this is the desired effect it has, You get a lot of car parking assets. If you don't want to do this many, then take some of them out. So this is what I'm looking like right now with my design. We can see, we have this pretty cool car park repeated asset, for the amount of people that these places tend to attract, especially if you're looking at something like the London Olympic Park. Then, these are about the amount of car parks you can expect to find. The repeated pattern with the elevated cycle highway is really nice. You don't have to include the elevated cycleway. You can make the distance between this outer road and the inner canal road 4 tiles and just have these car parks back to back. Very customizable, depends how much patience and how bothered you are about having the functionality of a car park there, even though the game is only reading them as commercial asset. There are a number of different things you can decorate the outside of your canal with. Yeah, I guess now we'll talk a little bit of public transport, shall we? So Monorail is really, really good looking for this particular type of modular build. And the stations will centralize within each of these little blocks here as well, which is always nice, A little bit of centralization never hurt anybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a one-way road. And then I'm just going to draw out by 300. Sorry, by 400 we want. 350. And then bring them down like this just to make myself a little box. Then I'm going to grab my public transport. And we want to have monorail in here. If you're not a fan of monorail, overground metro will work quite nicely. Have the elevated metro stations in here. Again, they will centralize this kind of bulky road network here. So it's up to you which one you want to use. I'm going to go with monorail just because it's kind of a more modern looking asset. And it's a little bit smaller as well, a little bit low key, so it doesn't kind of dwarf the rest of the sports assets. Again, I'll do that same thing. I'm going to come out by 350 and draw it around the back and grab myself that station again. If you wanted to, you could totally include the monorail station with the road and have them here, but I'm just going to separate them out a little bit. So if you don't want to have all the cycling infrastructure in here, then by all means have this as monorail road. That'll look pretty sweet as well. And then we're just going to have 2 monorail stops in here. I'm going to run it parallel with everywhere else. Of course, having this many monorail stops this close to each other, no, it's not really necessary. The only reason I'm including 2 is for the symmetry, but it's not going to be the end of the world, and both stations will get a significant amount of use as well, which is always nice when your public transport gets use. And again, very similar with the cycle highway, this is a perfect opportunity if you don't have monorail in your city already, to either make this the start of a new line. You don't have to link these lines up, you can separate them and allow people to move across via the paths and the bridges, of course. It's open to your own interpretation. Feel free to throw in a line that goes off in that direction. You can maybe cross it over the water if you are using the water as part of this build. Have some monorails flow across a lake or something. Take it off into a suburban area that way. Yeah, the possibilities are endless, ladies and gentlemen. Just as another little temporary support, I'm going to cut my canal back a little bit and include an underground metro station right outside the stadium. Again, just to help kind of box it off and decorate it, we can bring our paths across again. And then you can do a number of things with these. We can come into park life. We can include some cafe assets. A couple of these back to back will be quite nice. And then some restrooms as well. Rather than just leaving the metro station on its own, get some of those park life assets. Doesn't have to be the ones I've used. Feel free to use like zoo plazas or kind of whatever you want, and then come in with some more colourful trees and decorate these little empty spaces out as you wish. Next, all that repeated symmetry kind of in front of the key asset, that'll really help bring this build together, I think. Again, as this is linked in, unfortunately people underneath will be drowned out temporarily. But it's definitely factor in public transport into this build because the assets that we're using, they draw so much traffic, it gets pretty ridiculous. And not having any support in public transport, you'll certainly notice the difference in traffic. Okay. Now we want to use the track and field stadium. It's going to be kind of my first asset. And again, I'm going to keep everyone kind of on these outer assets flowing in a one-way system. I'm going to come ahead and grab my one-way road. And then from the back of this monorail road that we drew in, we're going to come out by a distance of 1,000 or 20 tiles. Now, in terms of the orientation of the asset, we just place the track and field stadium in here. I want the actual track and field stadium to be facing, this way. So I want to flip the asset onto its back. So just place it on a road first of all. And then you want to box the road behind it. And then this will now allow us to actually kind of flip the asset around. And I hope you agree that kind of focusing this You know, this is the bulk of the track and field, right? This is the track and the field, I guess. The entrance is a little bit underwhelming, whereas when we have our monorails kind of passing by, you know, this view right here, I think it's a little bit more impressive. Makes it look a lot nicer. Okay. And then of course, just to complete this area, I want to make sure we're coming in as tight as the asset as we can. Then bring your one-way system back in, and that'll just allow people to flow. And then you can just trim off the excess. And then we'll kind of have that as our first sports asset. You can also use this build as an opportunity to factor in a couple of different unique plazas as well. So for example, if we were to just temporarily take away our main stadium here, and let's say we drew in the unique plaza, which one is it? This one right here, the official park. This will centralize perfectly. A nice modern looking asset. Again, it's going to draw more people to the area, meaning you get more money from your public transport. And then we can draw this around the back and grab our stadium again. And centralize it again. So if you want a little bit of distance between your metro and kind of your key stadium, then perfect opportunity to throw in one of your unique plazas. And again, we can come through with some pathways. Yeah, as you can kind of see the effect, just pushing the asset back has a little bit. This isn't essential, but I just thought, you know, if you want to use some unique buildings, this is interesting how it also generates the reflection, isn't it? When there's nothing there. Yeah, so this is a nice little asset. It's the official park. But any kind of plaza or unique plaza will work nicely and kind of give you the same vibe here as well. So now I'm going to work with the baseball park, and again, if we place the asset in, we can kind of see that the meat and potatoes of the asset, the actual baseball decals themselves, are at the back. So I'm going to do something really similar to what I did with my track and field. I'm just going to flip the asset so I'll have the baseball facing in. So once we've got it in, we can now begin to, again, continue to feed everyone through a one-way system. I'm using a lot of one-way systems for these key assets just to keep everyone flowing so they're not trying to cut back against each other, because during the match days these things are crazy. A lot of them will use the nearby public transport. Of course, we've got two high-capacity methods, a monorail and an underground metro. So that'll see to them. Again, we can now just come behind the asset, let's check where the edge is. There we go. So give it a little box, and then we can almost use this border as a natural end to the Olympic Park. And then we can just flip it around. And it's going to look super nice as well, you know, with the monorail kind of passing by these seats here. Now this is a much more appealing side of the asset than I think the front. Although the front does have some nice like parking decals out front. I do think that orientating it this way does help give it a little bit of just a little bit of spice, you know. I think definitely working with the orientation of the various sports assets can really make a difference to how kind of the final build ends up looking. Okay, and then for example on the baseball stadium here, you know, if you find that you're not really happy with the way that the road network doesn't kind of totally encompass it, then just simply draw it around. You can come right into the corners of the asset here, kind of make it hug it like that. Okay, and then you can do something similar from this side as well. Let's come back and grab our one way. Again, turn off road guard line for this. Come back down, then in. So if you do want that open space next to the asset, then, you know, you can do. Otherwise, just box it off as you would anything else. And yeah, it's you can kind of see now looking across here, we're generating this kind of sporty vibe. It's going to be quite nice. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and link in the monorails into my very small mock city here, and Probably introduce some train travel as well, just so we bring in some tourists and give it a road connection. And then we can see some people moving around it. And then we can have a look at some of those kind of green cities apartments that will help complete this build a little bit more as well. Okay, monorails are active. Let's get a little look at them moving around here. Yeah, they really work well with this kind of Olympic Park type build, I think. Monorails are a lovely asset. So what I've gone ahead and done is actually upgraded the outer roads into something other than cycling lanes. This can be whatever you want. You can use some of the large avenues if you want. These work quite nicely with this build too. Especially as Sims can walk on this little middle verge here. It just works as a nice bit of variation and also adds more pressure onto the elevated cycle highway too, which is always nice. And then the inner cycle lanes still remain connected into public transport and the elevated cycleway should they actually wish to use it. As you can see, it's getting a little bit of use now. So you can get an idea of how many Sims are using the public transport. Have a little look at this one right here. So 150 coming in after a match day. And you know, people will move around the park and take the public transport, which is wonderful. Fantastic. So it certainly looks a lot more impressive now. It's got a lot of Sims moving around it, which is always fun. But yeah, I do like it. Some people coming back and across the bridges now as well. Really is a super nice looking symmetrical build with the canal and the stadium, isn't it? Got some symmetrical spice about it, I think. Okay, so we'll kind of round off the last part of the build now before we move into kind of decorating all these little spaces up with our usual little tips and tricks. With the district, we want to make sure that we are painted out up until an area where we can include some of these little green cities, kind of flats and Olympic side apartments. A lot of the inspiration from this has come from London's Olympic Park. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and give it a little Google and you'll kind of see where the inspiration, where the bulk of the inspiration for this has come from anyway. So from the left hand side of the part now, I'm going to come out from the road node that is on the back right hand side of this monorail station. I'm going to come out by a distance of 20 tiles, top and bottom. And then there's a few assets from the healthcare pool that work really nicely with this build, including the sports hall and gymnasium. Which again, will look really nice with the monorail kind of flowing over it here, or flowing past it anyway. There's the community pool and also the yoga garden. I'm pretty sure these three assets are green cities as well. I will double check and you would have seen at the start of the video though. And they just kind of fit this vibe, you know. So we're going to kind of mold them around each other. So I'm going to start out with a couple of sports halls and gymnasiums right up next to each other. Gives us a nice little repeated pattern as well. Then I'm going to come back through the middle with my one-way roads. And then I'm going to come straight behind the back and come in like that. And then I'm going to grab my community pool, drop him on the corner. And then drag the one-way road behind this one again. Just draw him out just a touch further. Just so we have a little bit of room to snap in. Draw it around the back. And then we can get the yoga garden in here too. And then that leaves us enough room to come back through. Some smaller paths. I recommend using the dirt ones for kind of these smaller assets. Especially with the yoga garden. Helps to blend it in a little bit more. No. And then we can use this as like a little block of recreational parkland. Not only for the Sims that are going to be living here, but you know, some kind of like smaller sports function events for the Olympic Park. Imagine kind of swimmers might train here, even though it's a little bit small. Not really like an Olympic swimming pool, but you get the idea, you know, and some like smaller, more amateur or semi-pro games might take place at these smaller arenas, while the professional games are saved for kind of the larger assets that we've got placed around the park as well. I hope you kind of get the idea with that. basically, you know, these assets kind of fit in perfectly well with each other. You can repeat this pattern as many times as you want. You can throw in some other assets. Have a scan through your unique buildings as well. There is the... Let me dig it out here. The Expo Centre and the Science Centre also don't fit too badly into this build, as does the Aquarium. So if you are looking for something a little bit taller, these assets will work wonderfully for it. I think I'll probably end up including the Expo Centre. You know, just so there's like a little bit of like recreational space to host events and kind of marketing conferences at. You know, stuff that's all associated with the Olympics and these larger sporting arenas. You know, you would expect them to have some kind of like exhibition space. So I'll certainly factor in the Expo Centre as well. But Science Centre is also a really nice shout. Super nice looking asset. And then similar as well with the Aquarium. I'm not a huge fan of the Aquarium asset, but it certainly can fit into this build if you want it to. But for my build today, we'll kind of see how we're going to integrate these. But anyway, back to the original point. Give it the sustainable housing specialisation for that district that we've just painted in. And then we're going to start feeding in some little one-way systems into our little housing area here. So in terms of the assets that we want in for this high density green city stuff, 4x3s, 4x4s, 3x3s all generate pretty nice looking assets. We'll just kind of throw in a couple of random patterns here and you can kind of see what we get coming in. In terms of the noise pollution from the metro station, it is pretty loud, so you want to avoid this front street right here. High density is a little more noise resistant than low density. So you'll get away with them being this close. However, any closer than that and then you'll start getting sick citizens in. But really, you know, these assets work perfectly. Just take your pick from them. These ones are always a favourite of mine. These little slanted roof flats. And also these ones as well. Work really nicely. And you can make some nice little cool repeated patterns out of these ones too, kind of turning them into a circle, very similar to what we did in Canalavan, for those that are following the Palavan series. And we'll just start to see some little high rises emerging. So yeah, basically you want to keep drawing out your road network. I want to go ahead and do this, and during the detailed time lapse as well, we'll come back and kind of use Find It to place in some of these more coordinated housing structures. But you do get the idea with, it looks like this city needs a cemetery, doesn't it? Just lob it here for right now. It's already getting messy. And it's brand new. We're getting some Sims coming in via the national line here as well, which is good. And the last final little piece of the build that we'll include today is going to be like a little TV media broadcasting centre. Because you imagine there would be some kind of media presence on a space like this for, you know, broadcasting all the various events and whatnot. And there are a couple of assets that work really nicely for this. One of them is the television station, which I'm pretty sure comes from the Modern City Centre creator buildings. We can place this in on the corner up near the track and field stadium. And again, super nice view as the monorail passes by. And then also, there's a really nice asset that comes with the Concerts DLC. This is the media broadcast building. And then what I'm going to do is leave 3 tiles between here. And then we're going to box these off. Draw out a little bit further. And then just make sure all our snapping is on, as it is. And then we can come down the back of here. Linking them together, go into our park assets, the regular park, just the regular small park, it works really nicely. And then we can come ahead and grab some of those dirt paths, turn off our road guideline snap in here, and then we can come down the middle here, just create like a little bit of open parkland around these assets here. And it'll look really good as well once it's kind of in. Let's go ahead and fill them all out. And then replicate with the same trees that are in the asset. And I'm pretty sure it's these ones. This park, isn't it? Yes, it is. So just expand the asset naturally around these two assets. And let's come up with like a little repeating tree pattern as we come down further into the park here. It's just like a little bit of media TV presence here. I think it works quite nicely. But it is time to go ahead and detail. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. If you have enjoyed the episode, a like below is always appreciated. Equally much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. I think this is a pretty cool way of combining a couple of big sports arena assets in different kind of patterns and combinations to kind of get the most out of the asset. It also included some other themes like media and broadcasting, some local organic housing, and some smaller park and recreational ground as well. And of course, make sure you include a couple of high capacity methods of public transport, because especially during the match days, this place will get extremely busy, as you would expect with any kind of stadium or arena park in the real world. The canal theme works really well, especially with the bridges coming across, and you know, again, this is a modular build. Feel free to bring the canal off in a different direction, add another arm onto it, and there really is kind of an endless variation of possibilities. Went with some of the old classic rock garden detailing to follow the monorail, and you'll kind of see it up close and personal here as we move through the outro cinematics. But otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.